So this is your July 2025 market update for East Tennessee, specifically Johnson City, Tennessee. And I'm using that just as an example. If you have an area, a town, or even your particular house you want me to look at, just let me know. So I'm going to be looking at my notes a little bit here. So the Johnson City housing market, it's changed a lot since 2024, specifically July 2024. So let's get into it. There's a lot more houses on the market. So that's good for buyers. Sellers, we got to work on it a little bit. What does that mean? It means houses are taking longer to sell and buyers have the ability to be choosy. So that's what we need to work on for the sellers. So let's get into some numbers here. The big picture is about 51% more homes for sale now than last July. Sorry, and my dog, my pug, Opal, is asleep in the background. So if you hear her snoring, that's why. Homes are taking longer to sell, about 78 days on average, as compared to 65 days last year. So they're just taking a little bit longer. We need to prepare for that. So if you're relocating and you need to be out of here and be in Arizona at a certain amount of time, we need to get the ball rolling now and really break down on what that's going to look like to get your house on the market and sold for when you need it. So the absorption rate is up, meaning it's a little bit less competitive, but things are still moving. Prices, average list price is up. So it's 11% higher than last year. So wait, sellers, you're probably like, oh, I can list my house for more. The list price is up. That's how much you put it on the market for. That doesn't mean you're going to sell it for that. I just had a conversation with one of my sellers, and he's seeing a lot of houses now come on the market, which I'm going to examine this further, come on the market higher. And so he's thinking, oh, well, we don't need to reduce, because we were thinking of doing a reduction. The house needs a little bit of work. It's super cool, but it just needs a little bit of work. And so we were looking for a reduction. We started a little high so we could do that, which I'm honestly not a fan of. It's not the way I like to go, but he insisted. So with that, why are they listing higher? Personally, I think some agents just list for what the seller says that they want so they can win the listing. That's not a good strategy, because eventually you're going to have to come back to that seller and be like, yeah, I told you could get 500, but it's really only worth 450. We need to take that down. So it just prolongs, and the longer you're on the market, the lower price you're going to ultimately get. It's just data. Okay, she continues to snore. So average list price, we talked about that. It's up from last year, but the average sold price, which that's what matters, right? It matters what it sells for. It doesn't matter what you list it for. Well, it does appear too high, but the average sold price is down 1.7% from last July. Okay, so the median sold price is down 5%. So we're seeing that correction of prices were super high. Now the market's speaking and saying we need to bring that down. So that's what that looks like. So sellers are still aiming high, and that could be for a variety of reasons. Maybe they bought at the height of the market, and now they have to make that move to Arizona or wherever they need to go. And they're like, I need this much out of the property. Unfortunately, in some instances, it doesn't matter how much you need, it's how much it's worth. How much it's worth to a buyer, and then ultimately, if they're getting a loan, it has to appraise, or the bank has to say yes, it's worth that much. Here are the keys. So those are the big points. At every price point and every town around here in East Tennessee and Southwest Virginia, all this is different. These numbers are Johnson City, Tennessee, not the entire Tri-Cities and Southwest Virginia. So if you want a particular area looked at, I'd be happy to do it. Just let me know. So let's talk about sales activity. Slightly higher in homes sold this July versus last July. It's up 3.5%. Okay, most sales ranged in that bread and butter $250 to $399 range. So that's pretty normal there. Luxury homes, they always take longer to sell, and they're proving that now. Maybe a little bit longer than last year, but they're outperforming last year. So they're selling a little bit quicker than last year, so that's good news. Even in the luxury market, just know those take longer. They always have. Pending sales, what is coming? So there's more homes under contract this July than last year, up 13%. That's sizable. Okay, biggest jumps are in that 200 to 249 range. And then 300 to 399 range. Okay. Pending sales for luxury is down, so those have to be, you know, finagled or really positioned correctly and priced correctly, because they will sit otherwise. Mid-price homes are hot, and then of course, like we mentioned, luxury takes longer. Okay, let's talk about inventory by price point. Biggest jumps, 200 to 249, up 127%. 400 to 499, up 105%. So inventory, we have more on the market. Buyers have more choices, therefore they're being more picky. Sellers are, contributing more closing costs, repairs, even rate buy downs. And if you don't know what a rate buy down is, it's when someone, could be the buyer, could be the seller, it could be anybody, puts a certain amount of money and makes that, 6.8 interest rate a 6. Literally what it says, buys down the rate. That's huge. If you're a buyer, it can really make a difference in your payment. So if you want more on that, let me know. So newer listings, fewer new listings this July than last year, 6.5%. Okay. So more $200,000 to $249,000 homes are listed this year than last year, because everything's, higher, more inventory there. So closing advice, buyers, you have more choices now. We can negotiate more. We can ask for more from the seller. Seller, know that's coming. If you say, I have to get $350 out of my house, out the door, but it's worth $350, that's going to be a problem. And I'd rather tell you the truth now than break your heart later. Because if buyers are coming in and knowing that it's selling for a certain percentage of the list price and they're expecting closing costs, and you don't offer that, but the house 2 streets down does, and it's comparable, they like it just as well, they're going to choose that other house. So we can talk about all of that. So thanks for sticking with me through this East Tennessee, specifically Johnson City, Tennessee market update. If you have any other areas or questions about this, or maybe I moved too quickly and you just want to talk, let me know. Until next time.